Welcome, my dear friends, back to Through the Bible, Brother David. We appreciate you joining with us today. And we're beginning a brand new book in our Through the Bible studies, the book of Esther. And as I could say about all of my books I've gone through, there's much more could be said on every place that I've tried to teach. But nonetheless, my goal is to travel through the Bible. If I stopped and studied out every little thing of the Bible, well, I'd never get anywhere. We'd never get through the Bible. And so my intention is to make a verse-by-verse commentary of the entire Bible if the Lord allows me to do so. And if I live long enough, I intend to do it. We've covered a few books already, but now we'd like to go into the book of Esther. Just finished the book of John, and now we're into the book of Esther. A beautiful book and a wonderful book with an ending that's just storybook perfect. You could take the book of Esther and you could make a great movie from it. No other piece of literature you find any better anywhere written by anybody any better or greater than the book of Esther. It is totally amazing, this book, and the things that transpired and took place in it are true and real. And you can verify all the events of the book of Esther by the ancient history books. The king that this was done under, the time of his rule, and also this we're going to study about the Jews and the feast that they have in remembrance of this book, of the events of this book. You'll see that they were about to be wiped off of the face of the Persian rule. And so remember this, that could take place. And so as we study through here, you'll see that in the book of Esther that the name of God is not even one time mentioned. But you could not see any clearer than any book that of God working. It is so clear how God is so strongly working things throughout this book. You'd have to say God is at work, even though the name of God is not mentioned in this book. And the events in this book cover a period of about 12 years. And this is recorded and written in the year 5, or started out in the year 521 BC. And so as we will cover these 12 years in the life of Esther and the events that took place in the palace. And this is a picture of what took place in the palace of a Persian ruler by the name of Ahasuerus. And so we'll begin our study in verse number 1 of the book of Esther. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 127 provinces. That in those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the palace. And you can verify all that palace existed, this king existed. In the 3rd year of his reign, this is early going in his reign, this king made a feast to all of his princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces being assembled before him. This was kind of like, you might say, in our day, of the president and both houses of Congress getting together. Be similar to that. And these other rulers that ruled under him, he had them to come in for a big feast and a big party. In verse 4, when he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty, many days, even 180 days, 180 days. Why, this is like 6 months that he's showing them the riches of his kingdom and of his palace. I mean, this is a very, very long feast. I mean, brother, in these days when they did something, it wasn't done in a hurry. They were taking their time about this feast and about this demonstration of Ahasuerus' wealth and the kingdom's wealth. It was huge. It was vast. It was a vast area of land that he reigned over. Of course, he had under his government these that ruled under him, governors we're told his servants, nobles, and princes of the provisions were all before him. These were the leaders of the kingdom of the Medes and the Persians. It was a vast kingdom. We're just told that covered from the land of India up into the land of Ethiopia. If you look on the map, you'll see there's a vast, vast area, especially in those days. To rule over that kind of area in those days, I just can't imagine how hard that would be. Something could happen, say, in Ethiopia. It'd take several weeks for word to get back to Shushan the palace. So he was greatly dependent upon these provincial rulers and nobles that ruled in those areas. And I can guarantee you that they didn't want any bad reports getting back to harassers. Could mean their death. But now let's read on here about what's going on. Verse 5. And when these days were expired, the king made a feast to all the people that were present in Shushan the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace. Now we're given a description right here in the next verse of the decorations of this garden that was in the palace, which were white, green, and blue hangings, fastened with cords of fine linen and purple, to silver rings and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver, upon a pavement of red and blue, and white and black marble. Can you imagine that? There was a great big area in the garden that was, they had obviously some stands, and they held these fine linen hangings. We're told the color of round about with fine linen that was hung with. Each of these stakes or posts set in a socket of gold, and the floor of it was of white and black and blue marble. It had to be in a very beautiful place that I could just try to imagine that. What a beautiful place it was. And this was, they didn't just do this out in the desert sand. They had plenty of desert sand round about them. But this was done in the garden, in the palace rims. And here in it was a very, very special place. It was built for very, very special occasions. And it may have been built just especially for this occasion. Vast amounts of marble and gold that were in that. Fine hangings of linen of the color. And the linen, the rings, silver rings were told. What about this? Pillars of marble and beds of gold and silver. So it's a lot of money was spent on this place within the garden for this special occasions. Well, let's read on, verse 7. And they gave them drink in vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, and the royal wine in abundance according to the state of the king. So they had plenty, while they were drinking it up. And the drinking was according to the law. None did compel. For so the king had appointed all the officers of his house, that they should do according to every man's pleasure. Now, as you know and I know, there are people who have not given in to the alcohol flow of America. There are some of us who don't drink. There's some of us that are teetotalers. And well and good. I think everybody ought to be. I think everybody should abstain from alcohol beverages. There's nothing in any of that that will help you. None of it. Not a bit of it. I know they jump up and say, well, the red wine will help the heart. It's not the alcohol, it's the grape that could help the heart. Never the alcohol, but always the red grape that would help the heart. You could eat red grapes and get the same effect as you would, or better, than drinking red wine, because with the wine you'd get alcohol. But I appreciate this about the king, that nobody was forced to drink, and nobody should be forced to drink. And if you're a parent and you're teaching your children to drink, you're doing wrong. You're doing very wrong. Very, very wrong. Never encourage your children to drink. Never before them drink. And I've heard people boast, well, if I'm going to drink, I'll drink before everybody. I ain't going to be ashamed of it. Well, I think that's a very foolish and a hard-headed thing to do, and a very poor example to do. Don't you be surprised if you get a phone call and your children are locked up because they've been driving drunk. Don't you get another phone call and tell you that they're locked up for a longer time because they've gotten drunk and beat somebody up or shot somebody. A lot of criminal cases are committed while people are under the influence of alcohol. And you know what it will do if you use it in abundance? It will destroy your liver and destroy your life. And you'll go to the grave early on that. And something else it'll do for you, it'll break your pocketbook up if you stay on the wine much. I remember one time a man back in 1971 or 2, I saw him go into a liquor store, and he came out with $80 worth of liquor. I saw that. And 1971, that was a lot of money, a lot of money. I knew good and well that man had a family that money would be best to go to. But nonetheless, I saw that guy spend it on liquor at the liquor store, and that's a shame. And thankfully, this king had enough sense not to force people in his kingdom to drink. They were allowed to do so if they wished, and if they did not, they were not compelled to do so. Well, that's a great blessing. And I tell you, if you let this world and you let all these people that sell liquor and alcohol in our country have their way with you, you'll be broke. You'll probably be arrested. All kinds of things will happen to you if you follow the bottle and if you become addicted to it. And most people, I think, do get addicted to it, and they want it. I've seen people every day around 4 o'clock, they're just ready to go somewhere and get them a drink. They had the taste of alcohol, they were addicted to it, and it was ringing their bell, wanting them to go satisfy that urge they had to drink. Well, you could get addicted to it. You could get even worse than that, to the taste of alcohol. It is addictive. And so you better watch out with that stuff. It's dangerous. And if I drunk, I would never do so before my children. I wouldn't want anybody to know I did it if I did it. But nonetheless, I know some people do it, and they do it unashamedly. Before their children, they drink. And if you're a mom or dad that does that, shame on you. You need to get rid of that stuff, get out of your refrigerator, your cabinets, and turn from it. Little ones are watching you. And I guarantee they know what you're doing, where you've got the brew at. They know. In our day, we see them establishing wineries and distilleries all through our country. Like every place we ride through, we see a distillery been built. Somebody's making liquor in there and selling that to people. And you think, surely there's enough in America that anybody making any more. But yep, they're at it busy trying to make more. And what they make that for, it's not to help you, it's to get money. They want money. And they say, hey, there's money to be made by making liquor. People are drinking. And if we can make something they like, people will buy our brand, and we'll make ourselves rich. That's what they're up to. They want to make money off of you. They don't particularly care about you as long as you can come in there and buy their alcohol. That's what they care about, and make them rich. Been a lot of people to get their pockets rich off of alcohol. I know the Kennedy man, I think his name was Jack Kennedy, became rich by importing Scottish whiskies and selling them. Well, his family wasn't the greatest people to be around. Two of them were assassinated. Another one was probably guilty of murder. Another one of his daughters had severe mental problems, spent her life in an asylum. It plagued them. No doubt it come back to plague them. We're told not to offer wine to our neighbor, that we should abstain from that. Woe unto the man that puts a bottle to his neighbor's lips. It's a dangerous thing to do. But we appreciate this king, at least for this. We're going to see he's probably not perfect, as we could assume a Persian king would not be. But we'll get on in as we move along in the study right here of the book of Esther, a beautiful study, and a most beautiful story that all turns out well that you could ever find and read in all this world. But what about you and your life, my dear friends? Is it going to have a good ending, or is it going to have a bad ending? How's it going to wind up in the end If you know Jesus Christ, it can all be wonderful.